Our mothers cradled us, promising us safety. Sleep, baby girl, don't worry. For as long as you're in my arms, the world can bear you no tribulations. But the world does not know a mother's heart, nor father's brute, nor fortress's walls.
I struggle with GAD, which stands for generalized anxiety disorder, and basically it means an excessive or ongoing worry. That's like the clinical definition of it. That like affects your daily activities.
Mason students are all rich and have no idea of what it is like to struggle. What would you say to that?
I would say that that's not true at all. It's kind of like judging a book by its cover. Mason has a good stereotype of like being rich or being wealthy and no problems, but within the school there's thousands of people, so every person is going through their own thing, and it doesn't matter about like the income that you have or like your grades or anything like that. In the sports, it's just like about that one person who's dealing with something.
All right, hey Shawn, so regarding financial hardships, at what age did you become aware that your family might have been struggling financially?
I did notice that we were financially unstable when I was a kid because we were always going on adventures in nature. You know, we were always outside, like playing the frisbee, doing stuff like that, because it didn't cost money. So that was always preoccupying my time when I was a kid. So with my dad, he was disabled in the Air Force, so he couldn't really do a whole lot because he had a broken back. So he got like disability money, and he had 2 kids with his late wife, and she was the only breadwinner there outside of his disabled money, so there was that. And then for my mom, she was going to college while I was going to school, and then she tried to work as many jobs as possible, so
it was just a lot of expenses, not necessarily as much money coming in.
Yeah, we lived in apartments as well, but I didn't really think about that because that's just where I grew up.
Yeah.
When I found out that that's why he was acting different, I was sad that that was the thing that he chose, you know, that was the drug. But I wanted to be hopeful that he wouldn't act that way without it. But I think that was just me being hopeful.
That last night, like your dad was drunk, and then, you know, you're going to bed, you have school the next day. Like, what's on your mind? What are you thinking of? How do you get through the day?
So I kind of grieved when I got home, you know, because they were divorced at the time. I would go every other weekend and then come back for school. And I would grieve when I got home, and that took up most of the day. But once I got back to school, I kind of pulled myself together, and I just treated life like it was normal, as best as I could. And then I did that until the school or my friends found out that I was being abused in that.
So when I was younger, I did experience some physical abuse. It wasn't like terrible, but it was to the point where at one point in my life the law did get involved. So it was a little bit serious, but it was more threats of hitting and then sometimes actually being hit by someone in my family. But currently I have not been physically abused, but I have been verbally and emotionally abused. Which adds to my anxiety disorder sometimes, and causes me to have depressed states at times, but yeah. Well, when I was younger, you know, it did upset me, and that's why the law got involved one time. I did tell my daycare teacher that it happened, and she immediately called police. It was a threat to be hurt, not an actual physical one, but I had an actual physical a couple of times. And going through school, I did at a young age start seeing counselors, talking to counselors, talking to friends, not specifically about to what had been going on, but just things I was feeling and stuff like that. But at a young age, you know, like that is kind of blurry, so I didn't really know how to tackle things.
Mason students are all rich and have no idea of what it's like to struggle.
Mm-hmm.
What is your response to that? Like, what do you think of when you hear that?
Well, I definitely think that a lot of people in the Mason community don't see that there are people, very few, but there are people in the Mason community who aren't as fortunate in terms of wealth. However, in terms of emotional stability, everyone has problems. Definitely finances and backgrounds, minorities, I'm Middle Eastern, I'm Muslim, I do come from a minority. There's lots of minorities in Mason that I don't think people see. While there is that majority of the rich, white community, there still is minorities and people who are struggling, and not everyone comes from the same background. My mom grew up in Detroit, very poor area, poor all her life, moved from state to state, and she's tried to provide me with the best life that she could. And I would consider myself middle class. I wouldn't consider myself high class here in Mason, but definitely not everything is the way it seems. So it just depends on that.
These boxes and bubbles that we build around ourselves are nothing more than a deception. We fool ourselves into believing that they are impenetrable. But no man, woman, homosexual, heterosexual, CEO, servant, celebrity is immune from hardship. And yes, while some individuals are born at an advantage, they too can face rough patches. It is our job not to assume an individual story, rather to ask about it, to learn about it, to appreciate it, to recognize Aniya, a senior on her way to a college education on scholarship, can struggle with mental illness. Shawn, a student with an impeccable gift in graphic design, is going home to a bottle of whiskey, wearing the face of his father. Selma, whose Instagram account details breathtaking trips to Jordan about the abuse she suffered from her family while she was there. We owe it to these young adults and others struggling within their boxes to acknowledge our peers' unique backgrounds and life experiences. We owe it to the next generation to open our eyes and ears and listen to each other without the noise of our own preconceived notions. I'm Asia Porter. Thank you for listening.